No problem. So last time, have you understood how we normally tackle with these legal enactment, whatever done by state government, federal government, and a couple of copied from other countries like the GDPR. Have you understood that? Anyone?
Yes, I did.
I agree. No problem. Okay, so major legislation to start with. There are four or five legislation normally discussed as far as cybersecurity installment goes. The first is GDPR, which talks about general data protection in terms of European region. So European region have basically initiated this thing in late 90s, and then it's got matured over time. So as of today, in European regions, they have really good data protection in terms of the data you shared with different persons, different organizations, and how that organizations should act for the data they've gained by due to their customer base, due to their friends and colleagues, and so on and so forth, and which type of data can be shared, can't be shared, and what are the ramification of this sharing. So this talks about GDPR. Now this is adopted by North American governments as well as Canadian government. So these are important for us. So whenever somebody asks what is GDPR in terms of cybersecurity area in North America, we need to start explaining them. GDPR is basically a European law, and this European law is implemented to protect the data, and it's a general data protection type of enactment where we are protecting generalized data which we get might be due to some communication, emailing, or due to your organizational working, and vice versa. So you couldn't share good number of data with anybody and everybody just because you feel it that way. That's why there are these enactment. There are some restrictions on data sharing. So even if you know your friend's number, name, birth date, this date, that date, and if anybody asks, please refrain from sharing this with the other party before you check with this friend, before you check with this person, saying, hey, Ravindra, can I share your contacts with this person because he was having this problem. He is requesting this thing for me, and so on and so forth. So you need to get a consent from the party in terms of how we can share the data with others, and that's why it's called general data protection. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion? You understand the general data protection, how it's applied? It
Yes.
started with the European region. I need to mention that. Okay. Then it comes to I have shown you the site, and we discussed about the oral history and geography and overall of those things, right? And there are Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. This is specifically North American Act, but now it's extended to European, Canadian, as well as quite a good number of Asian countries also. In India, we have an enactment based on HIPAA, like HIPAA. But yes, there are some tweaks and turns. Similarly, in Canada, they have adopted the HIPAA as it is from the North American government, and these things do happens in the real world. So HIPAA is all about protecting the record of your health insurance and the whole 9 yards between that. So if you go to a doctor, your data is protected by this HIPAA law, so that the doctor couldn't share your data with anybody else. Even if somebody requests him or her, doctor has to get your your confirmance, your agreement, saying, okay, hey Ravindra, this other doctor was asking your data, could you please sign this form so that I can share your data with the doctor. And that form contains the HIPAA compliance in terms of HIPAA as well as GDPR compliance, where that form might say, hey Ravindra, this is your name, this doctor want to share these data elements with the other doctors, and you are agreeing to that. You will not sue the doctor on sharing of these data, and that's how the overall compliance or agreement basically get implemented. Then we have Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or called SOX basically, which try to prevent fraudulent practices in accounting specifically. So this is applied specifically for all financial and non-financial institute. Financial institutions like bank, where you save your money, or your salary processing unit and all those things. Non-financial institution like mortgage, or loan department. There are a few institution who just deals in the mortgages or loans, and that's why they are called non-banking financial. Banking financial, the guys who do banking in terms of accounts, saving, credit card, this card, that card, and all those things. So mostly SOX apply to all accounting accounting companies, accounting or the companies which are dealing in finance. Okay, so this way you might explain to the interviewer. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion as of now?
No.
We are good, right? Okay, so let's move on. Then we have discussed GDPR in in good detail in terms of history, in terms of we have looked at the site where this is being an European law predominantly, but still used in North America. The other law which we have used are basically a kind of regional law, like US Federal Information Security Management Act called FISMA. This specifically talks about if you are an IT company, you need to protect the data of your consumers, your vendors, and other parties which are basically dealing with you. In terms of you can't share the data with anybody else on your whims and fancies. You might need to get a clear cut signed form from the party saying I want to share these information with these companies, and you need to mention the name, you need to mention the data element as well. Again, these are applied to all IT companies, all web companies, every other company which actually gets your data in a digital format, like the state government office or a federal government office, where you might fill social security form and so on and so forth, or driving, the DMV department and so on and so forth. So every Information Security Management Act applied to every company, and nowadays it means any and all company who uses any data element digitally. And if I can insist, these are the way the enactments are being formed. You can't find a loophole. Even the English, the way they express is perfectly have one and one meaning only, and that's how I had requested you to go through this enactment, their actual content, so that you can understand. And we're going to go through a typical audit checklist today, where we will understand how a generic audit checklist can be formed if you want to form this audit checklist, and in a general sense rather than any particular company. And that's what we're going to learn today. But we need to understand why we are doing that. We are doing that because we want to secure our data, be it a name, middle name, surname, mother's middle name, and blah 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 thing. N number of such thing we normally do share with every server in a given for a given transaction. Be it you are purchasing let's say a gift for somebody from Amazon. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to purchase a gift for your friend. Now you need to give the friend name, you need to give the friend address and the friend phone number, which is simple enough, right? But under this FISMA Act, that company, let's say you are buying a good pen, let's say Parker pen for your friend Ravindra. Now, when you're purchasing this pen, it has to be shipped to Ravindra, right? So, providing Ravindra's name, number, address, and all those things. Now, under FISMA, for a gift, you need to mention this is for a gift for such and such person, and even that data is also protected under FISMA, so that Amazon won't share this data with the other guys or with the courier companies unless and until you give a consent to. And these are the really important aspects to understand. And we might be doing this thing unknowingly, but the FISMA have strict guidelines of any and every company sharing this data with anybody else. Now, whenever they are sharing this data with, let's say, Ravindra stays in India, and you're sending a Parker pen gift from Amazon to him via, Amazon portal. You don't know this FESMA, you don't know the GDPR and all those things. Now, wherever this act applies, Amazon has a responsibility to make sure the company, be it a trading company or thing, has a full compliance of this thing. So what Amazon will do, Amazon will file a request with the Indian government and with the Ravindra saying, hey Ravindra, this is a gift being sent to you by this person. Are you agreeing to our local laws in terms of data sharing. And when Ravindra says yes, and whenever he says confirm, the button might be confirm, yes, I will receive, and anything. But overall, Amazon.com from North America is being complied to all these services about FESMA or the IT Act in India, the Copyright Act in India, and so on and so forth. That's how this trading company works. And they need to mention all those details. So whenever you say I agree on a button, whenever you visit a website, they normally making sure you are being complied to these data sharing enactment for a local region. So please do go through those agreement in terms of whenever you click I do agree of installing this software, I do agree of using your services for these purpose. And that's how normally they make sure you are completely in terms of they are making sure you are complying to whatever these need from these FESMA Act or data sharing mechanism across various countries. Then we have payment card industry or PCI. That's a basic organizations. That's the name of organizations, payment card industry, which certifies for any financial transactions data to be transferred between one digital entity to another, a smartphone to a bank, bank to smartphone, bank to other bank, bank to forex agencies, and so on and so forth. Now they had made a really great enactment, great clauses within themselves to make sure whenever you say you are PCI compliant, and that's the actual word they use. Whenever they say PCI compliant, it means that they are encrypting at least 3 times before sending any credit card data, your bank account data, name, number, the amount to be transferred digitally, and so on and so forth. So if you go to PCI site, there you might find number of different compliance you need to make sure. One of that is basically the data to be shared by one organizations to other might be between a vendor to a procurement company or a vendor to a customer, and so on and so forth. So please have a look at pci.com whenever you get time. Again, it's a complicated process. And the encryption is called triple desk encryption, which has basically quite, three-level encryption, which is not cracked for the last 27 years or so. By meaning that there are good number of hackers or ethical hackers, unethical hackers, and the whole 9 yards of it, but they still couldn't completely what you can say crack that triple desk encryption. That's what the PCI DSS use. You don't have to name the encryption. You don't have to really talk about the encryption, but just try to understand wherever there is a payment, be it a credit card, banking, or forex, or any such payment, has to be complied by PCI certification, and it's a global certification authority which basically complies your bank, transactional, complies your forex company transaction, and the whole 9 out of it. This is called payment card industry compliance. PCI DSS talks about the documentation part of it. So whenever you document the transaction saying Ravindra Pandey have transferred $40 from India to America to his son, daughter, friend, whatever it may be. Now this transaction has to be recorded for the next 6 years. That's a North American compliance. That's a North American enactment. So how do you store such data? That data storage is also basically to be certified by these PCI industries. So if you are storing a data of a credit card or a banking record, you need to make sure that data is encrypted by certain standard, at least encrypted thrice, and that's how you normally progressively encrypt these things. Okay, let me share some good video on PCI DSS if you want to learn in depth. Okay, if you have any question, you can ask me anytime, but these are really technical issues, so I don't want to go to a depth of what is triple desk, how a supercomputer generates a public key encryption, how we can get a second channel communication, to make sure even if one channel is compromised, that second channel will go through in terms of the another additional key. And that's where we make sure whenever there's a hacking or hacker trying to what you can say grab the communication channel, they couldn't basically do it with capturing any and all communication of a person. And even the second channel might change time to time. Like previously you have to have that captcha, then they've started OTP, then they've started email based OTP, and so on and so forth. You have gone through such thing, you might know. Like we are doing it for the PCI compliance, so that's how this PCI compliance works. So whenever it comes to payment or a money transaction, money trail, we have to comply with PCI regulation, so that we can basically make sure those encryption is in place throughout for all these triple level encryption and the other channel of sending the public key or something like that. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions as of PCI DSS right now?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have a question, but not on PCI DSS. Okay, I want to generalize.
Good, please.
I want to
Don't
generalize
stop
my
asking
question.
questions.
Yes.
Please go ahead,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes. All this framework of laws and regulations guiding the plan of a company or organization. We as cybersecurity auditor, for instance, what is
Right.
our role? Are we going to, as we are employed, are we supposed to go to the legal department of the company and access all these documentations and find out if they have it already in place, or we are supposed to be the one to write this documentation?
Great question, sir. Really great question. To start with, whenever you start working, you're not generating any audits. Whatever you're doing, you're using the audit forms which are formed by your leaders, your organizational auditors, which might be hired from external agencies as well. Like for PCI DSS, Ravindra can be a certified auditor for last 10, 12 years. So a company called Amazon might hire Ravindra in terms of authorizing their audit channels, authorizing their audit reports, authorizing their audit checklist. So audit checklist is the first checklist which are authorized by an external auditor. So there are specific auditors for PCI, for FISMA, and all other enactment as well. There are such for a typical North American company, there are such 9 enactments which you have to comply, and those have specified agencies listed on their organization. So if you want to go to PCI website, let me take you there, and we can see. Oh, come on, give me a minute. This is a really good question to understand. I believe somebody asked the similar question last time as well. Why is not starting? Okay. Could you see my screen web page where I have searched PCI certification in Google? Could you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a company name called scrut.io. This company name called skyflow.com. These are all certified PCI auditor. And then we have PCI security standards.org. Org is a company which is non-commercial in nature. And we are going to PCI security standard.org. Now here, this is the organization who normally gives you, who can basically give you the details of auditors available in your region. See, you can search for you can search for a provider solution, you can attend the training, you can have a merchant visited, and all those things. So there they normally mention what type of auditors you can select from. Then they have various consortiums, might be once in a 6 month or so. So you can go to this consortium by paying hardly $6 or $10 kind of fee, and you can understand what is PCI, what is PSI SSC, what is PSI DSS, what are the versions currently applied, and all those things. Okay, have a look at this website on your own and try to understand how these guys work, how this certifying agency work. This is based in North America only. PCI operates from North America. Then they have these FAQ also. Okay, PCI DSS is the most common certification in terms of the documentation or the data storage required for the payment card industries. So if you are a basically supplier of a bank, in terms of you print the checkbook for that bank. So as a company, you need to get certified on PCI DSS version 4. And there are these documents given. So what all you need to certify and all those things. To start with your career, you're going to be an auditor under a lead auditor or closely working with a vendor wherever if you join a startup. In such organizations, you'll be using some sort of audit or audit checklist which is already created, and we're going to try and learn how we create audit checklist also. If there is a need, I can provide you these audit checklists which I use as a PCI auditor for a good number of organizations within India. But that's not the purview or that's not the learning we need to do right now. We might learn if you decide to be an auditor, and if you decide to be auditor of a startup, I might give you my templates as well, and there might be some cost involved. We might try to understand from your organizations how we could do it. Okay, but that's the latter part. Let's first try to get an idea what the audit is and how do you normally run this audit. So audit is a kind of Excel checklist. Okay, let me show you an Excel sheet where I have created a generic audit checklist where a normal auditor can start auditing. Okay, let me share that Excel with you where you can understand how a normal auditor checklist might look like. Now this is a very small checklist. Okay, let me close this thing full screen and I'll modify this. Could you see an Excel sheet
Yes.
on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, this can be the topic one, or you can say compliance one. Compliance one says end user training. So this is a requirement to be complied by a given company for which you're auditing. So it says in the description. So this can be labeled as compliance title. This can be DSCRIPTION. This can be actual compliance if the organization is in compliance or not. Okay, and let me center mark, let me add some color, and let me bold it because this is a header. Oh come on, what happened? Oh man. Okay. So what I did, character I have chosen the color, I have to chosen the color for the background. Now why I'm trying to beautify it and show it to you, because as an auditor we need to understand how that audit is performed. So what we'll do, we'll have a meeting with a respective department, respective group, saying, okay, let's go to the cybersecurity compliance audit. And there are here around 17 such compliance point. Normally there will be 150 and above. But here we have taken 17 group points as we normally call it. So first point is end user training. The description says it's important to provide regular training to your employees on a latest trend within cybersecurity so that they can move more aware as to operate the important things to cover include phishing, password security, device security, physical security. Employee needs to know the potential cybersecurity breaches look like, how to protect confidential data, and importance of having strong password. It's recommended to have organization workshops with your company at least once in a 6 months. So that's a description. When you say I'm compliant to the end user training, I might say yes here. So there has to be a proof of the training happened in the last 6 months, saying okay, these employees have attended this cybersecurity training. Ravindra was not present because he was not well, he had to go to out of country and blah blah things. Yes, there has to have some reasons in case you are having a non-conformance from an employee. Now 6 months, this is not a single training we are talking about, because depending upon number of employees, depending upon number of participants to these things, we might choose 6 different training in the 6 months. Now again, these are all depend on how we are performing or how you are conforming to this end user training compliance. And if at all you have sufficient artifacts, you might say yes. Now, when you say yes, it means that you have sufficient artifacts. Artifacts is a legal term which normally pertains to a Word document, Excel sheet, or a written paper, written signed paper, which can be validated, verified to make sure end user training description has been complied to. Could you understand what I'm trying to say, sir, madam?
Yes, I understand.
Are a bit of technical words, but we need to understand as an auditor and a security expert what do you mean by artifact, what do you mean by verification, validation, and all those things. Of course, we're going to study in detail whenever do a kind of hands-on workshop, and I'll request you to build a compliance audit checklist for a bank, for a vendor like Amazon, and so on and so forth. There, you might mention enactment, saying okay, compliance with PCI DSS, and description you might say please verify PCI compliance for all financial transaction. And then in the D column you might say yes, no, or partial, and there are the whole 9 out of these yes or no. Right now I have made a simple audit checklist. Believe me, it's not get too much complicated, but yes, there could be a bit of complexity than the sheet which I'm sharing with you. Are you with me, sir, madam? Anybody is confused? Pardon me for using this legal terminology, because audit is a legal procedure. So unless and until you are complied, your company might be shut down by the state or federal government authorities. And yes, there are enactment, and there's a law called company law. So when you enact a company, when you form your company, you need to comply with couple of thousand rules from given state and federal mechanisms in North America as well as in Canada and the whole countries whatever there in on this earth. So if you open a new company in Timbuktu, you need to comply with their laws in terms of opening up a company and started doing business. Be it as simple as company for training, be it as simple as company for cleaning houses. You have to comply with the company forming policies, and all there and there it start the auditing procedures. Believe me, every company have at least one audit, that's called financial audit or accounts audit, to be done at least once a quarter. And this is normally a standard thumb rule for every company in the world. And then there are other audits like cybersecurity audit, which are also being imposed on these companies as a necessary audit to be done at least once in a 6 months. And that's why there's a need of cybersecurity auditor, because every company, be it a nook shop, means a corner shop which might sells couple of candies and some other things like milk, ice cream, and all, they have to comply with this auditory procedure. For them also, there's a cybersecurity audit which is required, so that even North America or Canada, India will make sure you're not sharing the data of your customers left and right with anybody from Russia. I'm saying from Russia, please don't get offended. Normally in cybersecurity world, when the word Russia comes, it means that you are a good hacker, and take it as a compliment rather than an what you can say, any defamatory remark. And believe me, one of as we've seen the or if you analyze the hacks or the what you can say penetration happened in terms of data breach or something, there was Russian citizens, or one way or other the Russian persons who have been leading such attacks. That's why normally in cybersecurity world, Russians are normally labeled as good hackers. They might be technically good, or they might be what you can say criminally challenged. Either way, these are the two sides of coins, but still we believe Russians are good in hacking, good in penetrating certain systems, and they won good number of awards as well. There are good number of Russian ethical hackers. So when you join any organizations, you might find a good Russian persons working with you in terms of either cybersecurity auditor or a cybersecurity ethical hackers, and so on. So I'm just sharing this out of experience, because normally in this area there are a good number of Russians. They are already involved. Okay, don't take it as an what you can say, defamatory remark, but it's a kind of respect all these Russians have earned. Like if you look at the overall wealthiest company, they are from North America. Does it mean that everybody else in the world is poor? No, but the most wealthiest organizations are mostly from North America. Do you agree with me, or do you feel I'm saying which should I shouldn't say or something like that? Are you with me? Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So please don't take it negatively, and try to
No,
understand the kind of satire behind it as well.
no,
You might have
no.
seen quite good number of English movies where if there is a Russian, he might be a hacker, or he might be a guy who want to penetrate certain systems or certain specific digitally controlled solution or system. Okay, now let's go to the second point. I don't want to go to the all 17 point as of now. What I would really like to do, you go through this thing as an homework, and I'm going to share this shit with you after our session. Okay, the second point is about the operating system and application patches and updates. Now here we are talking about a complete device security. They might have named it as a device security, but they were categorically put as operating system, OS is operating system, and application patches and updates. This means that the single most important and simplest action can be taken to keep computers, or in today's world any digital device, applications and operating system up to date with the latest security patches. Let me share an instance with you. This was happened in late 2017. There was a HP printer which has a network security flaw. So there were three Russian hackers hacked into one of the bank in North America and retrieved their employee data, which is a small bank of around 150 odd employees. And these hackers have got that information out of their database server from a printer. I don't want to name Helvet Packard as a company with the latest security, or relaxed security kind of measures, but it really happened. Believe me, and it was really well planned, well executed hack. These Russian scientists have, I'll not call scientists, let's say ethical hacker, have done these things, and they are being awarded by that bank as well. But to go there in terms of rather than an ethical hacker or an unethical hacker, you need to make sure you have to report the hacking and you don't have to damage anything. That's a kind of really walking on the sword kind of scenario. But still, we need to understand as a cybersecurity expert what it does mean to hack something, and we're going to learn such thing in a couple of slides as well. Okay, now let's go ahead with this description of these operating system application patches and update. Single most important and simplest action you can take to keeping your digital assets, computers, smartphone, laptop, desktop, and the whole nine out of it, and the application and operating system up to date with the latest security patches. But again, there is a lacuna here, because there might be a company who might give you a patch like patching Windows for security flaw, and they might give an Excel sheet to giving them a control of your laptop. This thing also happens. So whenever you get the security patches, make sure they are from the actual vendors, they are from the actual organizations who have created the software solution, hardware solution, the printer of the world, the smartphone of the world, and so on and so forth. So whenever you're updating your even phone, please make sure all these patches are from the respective vendor. And that's our responsibility on our shoulder to make sure whatever we install as an update is from the particular vendor only. If the computer is still running on Windows XP, you are at a risk, because Microsoft as a Windows HP vendor have stopped updating XP or stopped supporting anything to do with these old OS. And that's why I need to make sure we update that OS itself. So you might move to Windows 10, Windows 11, and so on and so forth. And even Microsoft clearly depicts or make a public advertisement saying, okay, we are stopping the support for so and so Windows version, so and so operating system, and the other remarks to it. So Windows 10, they will stop the support in 2014. That's what Microsoft have said. When I believe that news is not out yet, but yes, Microsoft basically compelling you to move to the Windows 11 as of now. And I believe most of us are using Windows. That's why this is a good understanding in terms of how do you make sure the point 2 is compliant. For a given organizations, they might need to spend thousands of dollars to update all their desktop, laptop, palm stock. So if you are using a computer purchased by an organizations, you are compiled to use commercial versions called mostly professional versions or something like that, and it's a money making machine from a Microsoft. And that's how they also earn a good number of dollars in a given year. When it comes to Microsoft stopped supporting the version of Windows long ago in terms of Microsoft XP. They have stopped supporting in XP, I believe, in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, and no longer provide security updates. So if you get a security updates for Windows XP, the company is for a company. And let's not apply if you're still running Windows XP. The vulnerable Windows 7 will soon suffer the same fate. Windows 7 support have been stopped in last year. And you might have heard the news. Microsoft is screaming about stopping Windows 7 support. Windows 7 was one of the most efficient Windows we had. And believe me, I was using my desktop on Windows 7. But I need to move to Windows 11 now because of such Microsoft marketing tactics. And I need to pay around, I think, how many dollars if I convert into dollars? Around 30 odd dollars. In India, it's a bit cheaper, but still, we need to spend a good amount of money in getting our systems updated, and all these updates comes with the infrastructure updates also. So Windows 7 used to work on 8 GB RAM. Windows 10 keep crying on 10 GB RAM, so I need to make it 16 GB, and so on. So, and this way, it's a kind of money making machinery for even these software vendors as well. And that's how they keep growing their organizations and get all these old customer clamping into the new operating system. Believe me, during switch of Windows 7 to Windows 10, there are almost 6% of the customer move to Linux operating system, mostly Ubuntu, Red Hat, and other Linux operating system, which comes free of cost. Even the support of the Linux system in US, if you want to purchase, comes at $10 per year. And that's why most of the organizations have moved to Linux as an operating system, which is difficult to operate, and they don't have a huge, what you can say, help file or something like that. But still, many organizations are moving because they don't want to spend so many hundreds of dollars on Windows operating system anyway. Plus, Linux is a really efficient operating system, so that if you use something like Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi computer, or what you can say mini computer, cost around $60, including operating system, storage, and the whole nine yard. And you can attach this Raspberry Pi computer to your TV as well, so that your TV turns into a computer. Believe me, I have done these things at my place, and it's doing wonders. So rather than purchasing these what you can say, cable box, or subscribing to this cable, just get a good internet and get a Raspberry Pi and start using your TV as a computer. Well, there'll be a bit of performance challenges if you're a game player or something like that, but otherwise, for the office, for the internet, for typical internet browsing, movie watching, Raspberry Pi actually addresses all those things effectively. I'm not marketing Raspberry Pi, but I'm a Raspberry Pi tutor and a Raspberry Pi enthusiast, and there are such other mini computers also on Amazon or any hardware vendor site. You can search mini computers where you might find Raspberry Pi. If you need any details, do message me and I'll give you all the details whatever you need to purchase the $100 computer, which will suffice purpose for your kids and everything, rather than going for a laptop or something like that. Now, coming back to our audit. So yes, you need to update these operating system whenever they publish an update for a given cause. So if there is a big hack happened at certain thing, like we talk about the HP printer, right? Now, what HP have done, they have updated all the firmware on those typical HP printers model to make sure the network patch is also addressed in terms of nobody could access the network which have been installed with such HP printer. And that's what the real scenario. But overall, if you can understand the thought process behind it, we have to make sure all the operating system, the applications, and different solutions you have on your desktop, laptop, laptop have to be updated at a regular interval. The standard thumb rule is at least once a week. So please do update your phone, your desktop, laptop once a week, because normally we turn off these updates, because whenever you start working on any critical thing, you might come across like, okay, my computer is getting slowed because it's getting updated. The Windows is getting updated, applying some network patch on all those things. So that's why we need to make sure we check all the updates at least once in a week. Does that make sense? Anybody have any question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Very good, right? Okay, no problem. Now here, the other things are like antivirus updates, strong password policies. This was a really, good, what you can thought process to have such validation done after each of periodic time, like once in a 15 days, once in a month, or something like that, where we make sure all our users are being enabled with strong password policy. Normally, if you go to Google and search for the most used password, the password is ASDF123. Believe me, this is the most used password. If you look at the keyboard, ASDF is a sequence of the keys, and 1234 is a sequence of the number. But yes, most of the guys use this or ASDF and use @123. These are the most common password. These password also basically make the compliance rule look weak. But believe me, you have to understand, the more secure your password is, the more secure it's from getting hacked or getting accessed by somebody else. So when it comes to your password, please make sure you'll have at least one number, one alphabet in a lowercase, one alphabet in a uppercase, and use one special character which is allowed by that password engine. And this way you can make a password which you have to remember. So please make sure a password relates to something in your life, in your better half life, in your kids life, or something like that. Now let me suggest some sort of hints for a better password. So if your kid is going to a school name, so you can use school name or the school first name as a password starter, then use @ hash, dollar, and all these signs or ampersand, and you can use the year, whatever year in terms of your kids have started or learning there. It's difficult to go through the record of a kid's education to find the school at a particular year. And this is a kind of a hint I'm giving you. Don't use the you college means your kids college and the any year whatever you think, but rather than using birth dates, please use year or year with month or year with month and day, which is not a birthday. Birthday is quite common password. So when it comes to Ravindra might use 15th 15th June June or Jun and 1971. That can be a password. But again, please try to understand, this is the first thing the hacker will try. So in this scenario, we need to make sure all our employees or our colleagues and we ourselves also using strong password policy so that nobody can hack your access, or at least hack access in just couple of tries. That's what we need to make sure. So please use strong password for your laptop, desktop. Now we have fingerprint sensor also, but with the fingerprint sensor, please have another a 4-number pin kind of scenario so that whenever there's a challenge in terms of somebody's trying to open your laptop without your presence, at least he'll have a second level of defense to than just the fingerprint. And that's how we need to make sure whatever our critical assets are, your laptop, smartphone, and all those things, make sure they are not accessible to anybody and everybody. I know in terms of North American culture or Canadian culture, these humans are mostly private persons. So you normally don't share your smartphone lock with anybody else. But normally in countries like Asian countries specifically, we are closely knit families and joint families also. So normally a smartphone is also shared across brothers, sisters, within a family and all those things. So in those times, we need to make sure the password is strong enough to be cracked by so many persons, and then if anybody else tries, he or she might not get through or shouldn't get through. That's the intention here. But overall, in North America and Canada, the overall security is on our side in terms of the privacy. Does that make sense to you? Any questions so far?
No, I'm clear.
Great. Now I believe you could understand how simple is the audit checklist here. And this is what the simplest audit checklist we can have, and you can build it for an organization also. So whenever you are working with a startup, you can start with this audit checklist. There are 17 items. I know they are not really huge descriptive ones, but still at least you have a starting point. And then the next level, you might go to adding important digital asset to this list, like making sure the network nowadays, if you look at a typical printer, the printer access is given by a certain pin. Unless and until you have that pin, you can't print in a given office, right? Because nowadays these printer are also network printers. So you can print it from your phone, you can print it from your any wireless device as well. And that's how all these facilities are improving day by day. And so we need to really think about these securities in a sense of how it's secure, how it can be better controlled, how it can be make sure nobody get access via such devices. And that's how to have a cybersecurity compliance is the basic need for every company in North America as well as Canada. It can be as simple as this 17th now what you can say point checklist, where you have to just say yes and send this Excel sheet or some federal departments, and so on and so forth. But still, whenever we start working, we might revise with a typical said audit compliance for a given state, for a given um, a given compliance mechanism required by the authorities. Okay, so let me share this sheet with you, and you might go and study this thing in detail if you want to be a cybersecurity auditor. Otherwise also, it's really a need to understand how we can go ahead with these security compliance as far as whenever you're trying to be a security auditor or a cybersecurity auditor. And then there could be some additional enactment like this California Consumer Privacy Act. Now this act talks about the additional measure the Californian state have been imposed on a given region. Now let me show you how you can search for these things. So what I'll do, I'll copy these things. I'll go to my Google, where I'll show you how you can search for these enactment. So when it comes to these things, and there's something like California Consumer Protection Privacy Act PDF. If I click here, it'll take me to various sites, but this government site is the best because this is the most updated act you can have. So I'll click here, I'll open this page, and as you can see, we are they are getting the PDF for me in terms of the actual act PDF. So this was updated on September 23, 2019. Okay, and then given the different how this has been distributed and all those things, and who have been enacted, who was the signing authority, and all those things, and how the enactment is. You can go through this PDF. You can download this PDF by just clicking couple of links on the Google. Now here the responsibility of business, the A is basically purpose and intent. What is the A? B is responsibility of this thing. A is consumer rights. So what type of consumer rights we need to follow in California? Now this is a California Consumer Privacy Act. Okay, so that's why it's basically applied to all over the Californian state. And please have a look at this thing. Now they have released this thing in a simple English also. There are a good number of movements in North American region to go away from the legal English and to adopt the normal day-to-day English for these enactments, and that's why this is a kind of bit of simple English what you can understand. So please take it as a homework to understand this enactment and the compliance of it. And if you can study this thing, please try to make sure whatever they were given, like when it comes to the point C, implementation of a law, the rights to consumers and the responsibility business should be implemented with the goal of maximizing consumer privacy while minimizing the business regulation that do not advance the goal. So this can be one point, and you can make a checklist how we can verify these things. Think it through. This is more of a thought inspiring exercise we might do in terms of how you can convert a legislation into a checklist. So there could be a point in your Excel sheet saying check the rights of consumer implemented or not, and there you might mention this point in your description. As simple as that. You can, if you can describe it, well and good. And this is how the auditor makes a checklist. I'm just giving you one simple example, and I'm basically encouraging you to try to do an audit checklist of at least 10 such point with this PDF. Are you with me? Could you try these things?
Yes.
Okay, and I have told you how to do it. Go to a kind of Google, try to say the enactment name and PDF, and then you will get all these links. Go for the gov site. ca.gov is California's government website, and if you get an enactment from that, this is in PDF, you can read a checklist, and this will be the audit of consumer privacy enactment within California. And that audit is actual audit checklist which you can do an audit in California. If you're in Missouri, you might try to search for the Missouri Consumer Privacy Act. If it's there, I forgot the spelling of Missouri. Let's say, let me check out if MO works. I don't, yeah, MO.work. Wow, great. So there are state of Missouri consumer law, and here these are all affected all over the what you can say Missouri as a region where they might have an audit checklist. Okay, there's an error. So these things do happen. Now see, it has clearly given me my IP address. This is actually my MAC address, the proxy IP address, that's my internet service provider IP address, and the incident, this is the timestamp we are talking about. Now this is how the data is collected by the state government agency. So if you are residing in North America, and I believe I got an error because I'm not in Missouri right now, and they don't want anybody else to read this enactment from India, and that's how they might have given an exception to me. If you are in Missouri, you might try to access this document, and that's a normal state governmental cybersecurity measures. Are you with me? Could you understand what happened here?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So this way we keep learning. We are learning all these modern thought processes as well, and that's the beauty of cybersecurity. It's the latest updated, organizational, what you can say, work which will really keep you on your toes, and you have to keep learning new things at least once in a 3-month kind of scenario. Okay, so these are all about security regulations which you might have to go through, or the compliance strategy, how you build the compliance strategy and how do you adhere to it. It's a continuous compliance. It's not a ribbon cutting ceremony we are talking about. We are talking about complying it repeatedly every week, every month, in a step, depending upon the criticality of your organizations, depending upon the criticality of your work. You might have a cybersecurity audit once in a week, once in a 15 days, once in a month. Normally, once in a month is a best practice for all these finance institution. But for a normal vendor, like might be a non-critical vendor where you might selling furniture, but you have to have a cybersecurity audit done once in a 6 months by the state and federal law in Canada as well as in North America. It's a multidisciplinary workflow, such as legal. We need to involve multiple departments. Legal department, marketing department. Legal is a department who certifies your audit checklist. So if you are building the audit checklist, you need to send it to the legal department. Legal department can be a part of your organizations or can be a legal partner which might be situated in any other city as well. So you might need to send your audit checklist, which is a predominantly an Excel, and they will certify it. Okay, this audit checklist looks fine. It addresses all the concern required by the authorities. Then you have a checklist for marketing department, operations department, IT, the different executives your organizations will work with, and so on and so forth. The accountability to the customers, employees, partners, and the board of directors are normally validated by this audit checklist. In terms of, like, the employees might not get sued, for any leakage in some data. The partners, the vendors, they are also have to be protected. Or if you're working with a partner, and they might send you certain good number of audit checklists. Also, normally this happens whenever you purchase a Cisco routers or firewalls. They normally send you a couple of papers to sign, stamp, and send it back. These are basically their audit checklists, which make sure you have certain elements included in your cybersecurity audit, and which is a kind of state and federal compliance in North America as well as Canada. And then we have IT and security based practices as well, like we discussed in those 17 generic audit checklists. These are common best practices followed for cybersecurity or the security audit as such. Adherence to the international best practices standard and concept. If you are working in something like African countries or some remote countries, then also if you're dealing business with North American counterparts or a Canadian counterparts, you have to adhere to couple of such audit checklists. And believe me, with all such checklists have been imposed on all the vendors. So if you have a let's say a software vendor from South Africa, or let's say Cambodia or something, you might have to make sure that vendor complies with your cybersecurity audit as well. So they will have at least their security audit done once in a 6 month and send you the result as well, just to make sure whatever solution you are getting is secure enough without any loophole or something like that. And we have just reviewed the audit checklist, which is generic in nature. Now you can make a specific audit checklist with that Californian consumer protection enactment as well. Try to find some audit enactment within your state, so that you can discuss with your interviewer, like if you are in Missouri, what type of cybersecurity law applies to Missouri, and you might have a audit checklist prepared for that as well. Take it as a homework, try it out, okay? And if you need any help, do let me know and we might work on that. Any questions so far? Anything which I can help you to understand better? Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I'll take it as you understood whatever we have discussed, and please try to do the homework, and then we can share your ideas as well with the group. Okay. Now this completes our overall understanding of audit. in terms of auditory procedures and all those things. We might do a hands-on workshop after we do the other two things. There are three things which we normally do in terms of cybersecurity audit. One is auditor, another is basically uh, a penetration tester, and third is basically cybersecurity analyst. Now we are moving into a part where we are talking about penetration testing at a large, where we will try to understand how we can make sure all these access management type of softwares tools are implemented in cybersecurity area. So we are talking about securing users with identity and access management, and then we talk about the application security as a third agenda. There we might use various tools. In IDM IAM also, we are going to use various tools in terms of how you can make the identity and the access management secure as per the compliance to be enacted within those given region. Identity management system associate specific rights and restriction with each user's established identity. Now what this talking about? There's a hierarchy of user in every organization, be it an employee, contractor, vendor, partner, customer. Now these hierarchy are governed by such access right or authorizations. So any systems which have access given by the virtue of user ID, password, and an OTP or something like that, they have a list of hierarchy in terms of a normal user, new user, registered user, a manager, a approver, a auditor, and so on and so forth. So there could be so many roles given to a given to a simple solution, like even for that matter, attendance management system. When you develop an attendance management system for a given company, they might have logins for every employee so that he or she can mark their attendance. They might have separate employee for HR executive. They might have separate employee for approvals in terms of leaves, in terms of whatnot. They might have a separate logins for accounts people to check out the days of working and the different leaves planned by the given employee, and so on and so forth. So here we have a different rights and restrictions applied to a established identity, as we can see, and that's why it's called identity management or identity and access management. So ID and IAM is a standard term which is used whenever we talk about cybersecurity access management or identity management, and it's a hierarchy based system in every organizations like such. To comply with strict regulation, we need to implement access and identity management technology for both application users and the IT personnel, including the system administrator. So here we have to understand the different roles, different access and restriction on a given user. Are you with me? If you're working with any company, you might have a user ID password for the email. You might have a user ID password to access the cloud services. Now this user ID and password, with or without any additional OTP mechanism, might be a part of that whole hierarchy we are talking about. You might be a simple executive, or you might be a VP or CEO of an organization. Still, you are a part of this hierarchy of an organization access and identity rights. Or this is what we call authorization and authentication policy and processes in a general English. And every organization has such hierarchy implemented within their IT systems. Are you with me? Is it simple enough to understand?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe you have experienced these things whenever you're working for any of the companies. You might have the laptop given by the company to you. You have certain user ID passwords. You have certain network privileges. You have certain printing privileges. You have certain cloud storage given to you for the work of company, and so on and so forth. Or even if you take a cloud storage or a simple email access from a Google, you have to make sure you have your user ID and password shared with them to access your email. And simple, this is the simplest way of how identity and access management works in a real IT world or real day-to-day life, to be precise. Even for Amazon, even for any such e-commerce website, your user ID and password is basically your identity and access management system we are talking about. Now, how to secure these things are basically the things which we are going to start learning. And then you're going to secure the applications and the application security as well. What do you mean by securing the apps? By having these IDIMs for a particular application, be it a Google is a web-based application or a cloud application. G Drive is again a different cloud-based storage application. Now, all these applications have their identity access management system, which might give you access for a certain period of time with a certain access right and privileges. If I'm Ravindra Pandey accessing my Gmail access, I shouldn't delete any other user's email or shouldn't access any other user's emails, right? And that's a normal thought process. And that's how we normally work with a secured app. And that's why we call that app is a secure. So Gmail is a secure app. Now come about the application security. When I sent a mail, let's say I sent a mail by mistake. Now there are some few seconds in Google, I believe it's a 10-second to unsend the email. And these type of security features also called as an application security feature, so that the application security is still intact even if you are doing something out of exceptions also. So there is a application exception management when it comes to application security. Securing app means one user ID is distinct from other. One user ID privileges might be different from others, and that's how we have given a secure access to a given app. And that application security is basically the the including functions in terms of how to secure that app. If somebody like Ravindra try to access somebody else's email, how to make sure, like we'll notify him for the first time, second time we might generate a non-compliance, and third time we might penalize it. And these are, I'm talking about the thumb rules. In some cases, even first time is a warning or some punitive measures. Second time, you completely unauthorize that user from your systems, and so on and so forth. Again, depending upon the criticality of the digital assets allocated with the shared apps, we normally build these securing apps and application security on the basis of that. Can anybody share their experience with such applications like I shared with the Gmail, right? Can anybody share with their experience with any other application? Could you understand the question? Have you understand the question? What I'm trying to ask? Hello?
Can you say it
Am I
again,
correct?
please?
Yes, yes. So could you please, share your personal experience of where you have used your, identity management or access management security?
Okay. Identity management is for passing like a password or encryption
Right,
or a
right,
token.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we use it
No,
for
but go ahead, please. Sorry.
okay. So we use it for at least for securing our environment and to make sure that it's not exposed to vulnerability or threats.
Mm-hmm.
So by passing a secret key, it can be a secret access key. If using
Mm-hmm.
IAM, in example in the AWS in the console, we can create an
Perfect, perfect.
IAM. Yeah, so that's a
Uh-huh.
good example of it. So we can also use like token
Mm-hmm.
like tools like Git. You can create a token, which is
Great.
an encryption
Mm-hmm.
that we can use too. So
Wow, great, great. Thanks a lot, Jay.
mhm.
And this is one of the most prominent example of securing to or applying to the additional security levels as well. So Joy was talking about having access the AWS services, Amazon Web Services. It's a cloud services we use to deploy website, to administer the website or to administer any digital asset over the cloud. And there they have a user ID password, and in addition to that they have a security token. So there's a small device, might be 1 inch by 2 inch kind of scenario, weighing around 50-100 grams, where you get an additional OTP on that, and which gets updated quite periodically, once in a minute kind of scenario. So whenever you log in, you have to key in that OTP come on that device whenever you try to log in. And this happens, this is called single channel OTP, or the second or third level encryption. One is your user ID, then your password, and the third level is this OTP sent to you by separate channel, to make sure only Joy can access his or her credential. And this is the beauty of the overall identity management and access management. This is the framework we use. Okay, so now let's try to understand in terms of how do we do it on a generic level. You may need to ensure that use and administration of your core business applications complies with the pertinent regulations governing the privacy of consumer, patients, and citizens. They basically categorize these three just to share the example with you. So we are talking about mostly consumers, the patients, and citizens. There are different levels here, but let's try to understand it generically first. Then we'll go into this specific of these group of users. For organizations, that means evaluating operating system, application server, and database to establish compliance score, and then associating the score with a relevant benchmark, rules, resource evolution. So here we are talking about distinguishing the users with the said application. It can be an operating system, it can be application like Gmail, it can be application like AWS, it can be application like Google's cloud services. Again, depending upon the application and the category of the user or the hierarchy of the user, we create these benchmark, rules, resource evolution in a progressive manner. Let's say you join a company, let's say you started working with Amazon. So if you started working with Amazon, there we need to understand, whenever you start, you might have given lesser privileges for the first week, just to make sure you have enough to understand what you're going to work on. And then in the second week, your IAM and access privileges might increase to another level. In the next month, another. And when you got confirmed as an employee, you might get certain additional privileges in terms of accessing certain storages, accessing certain trainings, and so on and so forth. Are you with me? Could you understand? Is this happened with you?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir, please.
Yes, not actually that one, but related that one. That last week when I tried to log into Verizon account, and by mistake I forgot my password. So I tried 3 to 4 times, and then my account is hanged for almost 24 hours. Please, can you explain on that one?
Go ahead.
Please, can you explain
What's
on
the
that
question?
one?
Which one,
My
sir?
account was. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. There's a bit of disturbance, I
Yes.
believe, but please go ahead.
Okay. In last week, I had Verizon account, and by mistake I forgot my password. And
Okay.
I tried 3 to 4 times, and then my account is hanged, and it says that it's hanged for 24 hours. After 24 hours, you can try it. So please, can
Right.
you explain on that one?
Yes, sure, sure. That's an additional measure, measures which we are coming to, that as well. These are secure, measures whenever some user try to access critical information, which has to be given access only in some scenario where we have to make sure his or her identity is established with the system first. So let's say I'm using a bank, I'm an American bank user, and I keyed in my user ID password wrong thrice. So what Bank of America does, it blocks your access for a day. This is to make sure no one is trying to get access to your account without knowing your password. Or they might ask a question, could you remember your last password? The one which you are using and the last to that, you might key in that and they will give you an access to check or change the password. Again, these are the extra measures taken by this ID and IAM access security policy to make sure Ravindra's account is accessed only by Ravindra and not by anybody else. And for that, you have to make some preventive measures to make sure no other can try to access that account, because computer can't see you in terms of like if Ravindra is using Ravindra user ID password or not. What they can do, they can channel some OTP with they can send them OTP from a different channel to make sure only Ravindra is accessing her Ravindra is accessing his user ID and password. But if Ravindra keys in thrice, he says no, Ravindra is not in a correct state of mind, so let's block his account for a day or two. Sometimes it's a 3 days, sometimes it's a 24 hours. Again, depending upon the compliance the bank follows, they normally give these things. Now what you can do, if you want to have an access urgently, you might call them on their support desk, or you might go to the bank and say, oh, manager, this is what happened, so how we can go around it, and I need some money. So what you say, okay, let me do one thing, let me create a credit note for you, and you can take the money in case if you require the money from your bank, and he'll ask for your photo ID or something, which is a kind of extra key he used to generate an exception in his system for the account access. And this way, all these banks make sure nobody else than their actual original customer accesses their credentials. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And that's how we have this procedure in place to make sure nobody than the exact authenticated customer should access the credentials. It's a really great question. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. And these are the way evolution helps to determine the compliance with the system in case of ID and IAM. Anuj sir, do you want to add anything, sir?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. So this is the way we normally come again, sir. Sorry.
I was saying you have pretty much addressed all the points on to it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I'm a human. I might make mistakes, so it's better to validate this. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Now here we have started working on IDM, ID, IM or IAM as a cybersecurity expert. So what we do here? So we are basically trying to have identity and access management, as a tool to make our digital assets secure. And that's how we normally going to work on this in terms of learning how to make sure our identity and access management is in par with our critical digital assets. IDM IAM is an integral part of cybersecurity domain, so identity and securing the access management. There should be an access word there. The major factors that are expected to be driving IAM market are the growing emphasis on compliance management and increasing trend of mobility have driven the demand for IAM solutions in various sectors. Now with the smartphone access, I normally access my bank via smartphone. So what I have to do, I need to send an OTP via email. That also I can access my through my mobile. So what I do, I might do a fingerprint sensing, I might do a face recognition techniques to make sure the person is basically a kind of same person which we have given the rights to. And that's why biometric is a common alternative to make sure the person who is accessing the bank records are the same person who have given the or who have the right credentials with him or her. Employees can use their devices from different locations these days. So if Ravindra is visiting let's say North America, and he wants to work from the St. Louis office for the next 1.5 months, so what we do, we might let him use his Indian laptop, which is given by the organization. But still, we need to make sure that laptop is secure enough to be used, or many companies might give you a separate laptop if you travel across the country. So in enterprise rent a car, they've given a laptop on something called bring your own device approach as well. So if you go to India, they might loan you some money to purchase a laptop and take it with you, rather than having the same company laptop to be taken to other countries. So that company laptop might be put in a kind of storage, a secure storage, and Ravindra can get a new laptop with some loan, with interest free loan or something like that, and then he or she can carry it to the different area where we have some extra efficient measure to track the security, like a kind of location beacon, like a kind of whoever is trying to access that laptop has to be photographed every time, added to the server, and so on and so forth. Believe me, these are all implemented practical measures in most of the organizations in North America and Canada nowadays. The bring your own device, normally called as BOID approach, is increasing the usage of mobile application in today's world. Changing scenario and distributed IT environments have made the organization susceptible to cyber threats, and thereby fueling the demand for better IAM solution day by day. So here we are trying to understand if the organizations is going to give you certain devices to use for organizational work, they want to make sure that device is secure enough so that it can be used day in day out. And that's why we normally have to make sure all these identity access management solutions are secure enough and provide enough security for the critical digital asset in a day-to-day working world. Identity and access management market is established to grow from US 8 billion in 2016 to USD 17 billion to 2022. In 2023, we are touching almost 12 billion as far as the market growth in terms of overall world-based IAM and identity access management tools and the solutions. And these are basically at a estimated compound annual growth rate called CAGR at 12.9 between 2016 to 2021. And this is how important is the IAM access management also. Now let me play you a small video where we will try to understand. So great question. So here what we are trying to do, we are trying to understand, should we start preparing for the interview or should we start applying? That will be the first question I want to address. And
Yes,
to that answer is yes. Yes, you should. As far as auditor goes, we have understood the auditor requirement. We have understood the background of security in terms of for any organizations and so on and so forth. So you might start. But first of all, please update your profile, get it validated from Devji in RRRP session, which are normally planned on Tuesdays and Thursday. There are afternoon as well as evening session. So if you couldn't attend either of them, that's fine also. Please attend at least 1 or 2 sessions. Get your resume approved from the HR, because there are certain flora and fauna required for each and every interview to start marketing. And then start and get your LinkedIn profile aligned. If you don't have 500 connection, please do make sure you have 500 connection, because whenever you're going to pose at a cybersecurity, let's say auditor of at least 3 or 5 years, you have to have at least 500 LinkedIn connection. And that's how we will make sure all these recruiters checklist you have complied to, so that they'll start putting your candidature across North American Canadian corporates. And that's how we work. So please work on your profile or start working on your profile. Don't wait. I think I've told this thing in second or third session as well, but yes, we need to do it and do it parallelly. Don't wait for any, see, in cybersecurity, you can't say I'm a completely knowledgeable, because it's a really fast-paced evolving, technology. You get
Yes,
new
day by
cybersecurity
day,
tools.
the new they
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
also some new techniques are they are
Exactly.
bringing, and also we have being the cybersecurity expert or security agent or auditor or anything, a penetration tester. So we have to find the and we have to solve the problems right there. So
Exactly.
there is
As
a
simple
must
as
area. So
that.
always we have to keep updated ourselves.
Yes, ma'am. So I would really request, please try to attend these RRRP sessions so that you can get your profile, your LinkedIn and everything aligned. And then if you need any technical help, me or Anuj sir, we are there to help you out. You can message us and we
Sure.
might have an extra session during the week as well. Please don't feel like, no, we are limited to these 2 sessions or 3 sessions, whatever it may be. Okay. So
Okay.
we are there to
Thank you,
help
sir.
you out. Plus, please start.
Okay.
And you might be targeting for the vulnerability tester, which is a kind of last leg of our discussions. But still, what I would really request, please do start working on your profile, start working on your marketability, as we normally call it. Because once you have
Okay.
that thing also in ready in parallel, you can
Mhm.
start planning for the interviews. And even during interviews, we are there to help you out. Please don't feel alienated, or you're working alone. We have committed for your career, right? And we are together for at least 6-7 months, and that's how we will look at it. So please never feel like you are alone, or you are working in isolation. Yes, of course, you need to ask questions, you need to keep disturbing us, and that's your right, the way I feel it. Okay, so please start working on your profile, start working on your LinkedIn and all those things. Please join this RRP session, because I'm not a HR person, I'm a technical person. So giving guidance on HR might not be a right thing, or might not be ethical as well. So please join these RRRP session, and work on with these teams, HR people, who can guide you in the best possible way to shape up your resume, which will be kind of
Okay.
marketing document, right? So
Yeah.
that's how we're
Sure.
going to work.
Yeah.
Does it
Thank you,
answer
sir.
your question, ma'am?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else have any
Still, so
question?
Yeah, I have a question.
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Divya ma'am, please go ahead. Sorry, just
Yeah,
give me a minute.
thank you.
Please.
Sorry, Jay. Let me finish.
No
No
problem.
problem. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Actually, what kind of skills should I add to my resume for auditor?
That's a great question. So first of all, you have to add in terms of you being working as a cybersecurity auditor for so many years, depending upon the career gap, depending upon the length and breadth you can mention there. Then try to understand these acts, and you have to mention these enactments, like the SOX Act, which is necessary for North American candidates. And please find out legal enactments in your region, as we discussed for Missouri, right? You might,
Yeah.
where do you reside, ma'am?
In Texas, Dallas.
Texas. Oh wow, Texas is one of the most advanced in terms of security measures, because we have
Yeah.
lots of networking companies there. And
Yes.
network, as we've seen, right, is an integral part in terms of cybersecurity measures to be implemented. So there you might have quite a good number of enactments. I believe there are 3 or 4 enactments in Texas. So please do search. And why I'm telling you to search, because if you try, you will know how to search, because these enactments might be a kind of upcoming enactments. And that's why, rather than restricting with what I know from few years back, it's
Mhm.
best to search as of now, or
Okay.
search for how the ground as of now, and you'll get an idea how to look for such thing in a future as well, which
Okay.
is required for our career. And you might agree with me, right, ma'am?
Yes. Yes. Of
Yeah.
course.
So that's why I'm and if you couldn't, please do let us know. We are there for you. Don't work in isolation. That will be my humble request. We are there with you, and we are going to get the job, and we're going to start working. That's the overall results what we are looking for.
Okay.
Okay. Getting knowledge is one thing, but using that knowledge and earning is the most important thing we need to do. And that's
Okay.
how we'll progressively understand. Yes, Anuj sir, do you want to add anything, sir?
Yeah. So, in addition to what Ravindra sir has mentioned, see, from the security audit perspective, it is not just you go to the interview and start start going to the discussion. Whatever
Yes.
we have explained in terms of the concepts, the scenario, the generic terms that are used in the cyberspace among the industry, and that is upcoming. You guys first go through it, understand the logical working of it, understand the workflow, and then coming to the security audit profile. So audit profile is not any major or a rocket science sort of thing. So
Yes.
as you have asked that what all skills we have to add, so just consider it in this way that what are the best practices when it comes to the IT controls. So that is something you need to be aware of, and that is something you need to focus on. And this is not only for you; it is for all the professional, all the audience who are looking to enter into the audit workplace. So there are terms like ITGRC, that is termed as IT General Controls. So this is something which covers your what are the best practices, or what should be an ideal workflow when it comes to the IT system of any organization. Because for any organization, IT system is just the backend.
Okay.
So if you take control, if you take care of their IT system, that the backbone, they'll more focus on their business. So organization would be into financial part, into media, into healthcare, into manufacturing, anything. But for
Mhm.
everyone, the IT is their backbone to give them support and make them workflow very smooth. So you need to focus on what should be the ideal or the best scenario. So since you would be searching around the internet, search for things like what are the best practices from the IT standpoint, what are the IT general controls that needs to be followed, that needs to be considered. Then there is a term named as ITGRC, that is IT governance, risk and compliance. So, again, that is more from the compliance and security perspective. ITGRC is just the day-to-day activity. So
Okay.
ITGC covers your access management, what we have covered in the past session and in this one as well, ID and IAM. ID and IAM is just the tool or the process that needs to be taken into consideration when reaching the achievement of user access management. So user access management is a topic, is a concern, and then probably the certain controls would help you to understand the overall workflow.
Okay.
I hope that gives you the answer.
Mhm. So the part IAM goes to the analyst or the engineer, right? If I'm not wrong.
Ma'am, as we discussed, there are overlaps. You can't,
Okay.
distinguish. Okay, IT auditor will not do an analyst job because
Yeah.
in few organizations there are hardly a team of 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So analyst can be an auditor, auditor can be an analyst, even the
Okay.
vulnerability tester can be an auditor. And depending upon the organization you join, if it's really huge organization like IBM, NASA, or something like that, then you might have specialized duties. But again, as a fresher, we can start with thinking like a smaller organization. Even in Cognizant, as far as North American region goes, they have a team of around 25 all odd cybersecurity expert. Means
Mm-hmm.
well, of course, Cognizant is a partner with GuruSchools for last 10-15 years. But there, what we doing, we are trying to have auditors working as an analyst, analysts working as a penetration tester. So these job roles are not that distinct as we might believe. And again, these are also kind of, you can say, far and few instance, but that's a reality. Okay,
Got it.
so
Yeah.
rather than learning just one thought process or understanding like I'll be doing only auditor's responsibility, that might not be the correct way to look at it. I'm just suggesting from my experience, I might be
Got it.
wrong.
Yes.
And
And
one
I
more
have
thing, I
another.
mean, don't go by the name, don't go by the profile that it is an auditor profile or an analyst profile.
Uh-huh.
You need to understand what is the expectation of the organization or the management from you as an individual when you are entering into cyberspace. If it is an analyst, then it will be technical. If it is an auditor, then it will be, as I mentioned, that auditor profile is the third line of defense. Your
Okay.
job is to review the things that are being deployed, or that organization says that we have deployed or we are working on it. Your
Oh,
as an auditor, your job is only to review that whatever they have committed, whatever they have mentioned that we are doing this, or we would be going to do this, you need to verify and validate that thing. So auditors profile just to validate. So
okay.
but don't go by the name, but understand what is the expectation of the organization from you.
Okay. Yeah, got it. So is there any tools for auditors like to generate the checklist, to collect the logs?
The enactment is the base, ma'am, and on that you might decide for a given organization, these might be the checklist. Like if you're working on, let's say, banking vault, there you might need a good cameras which might get updated every 6 months. There you might need the motion sensors, the infrareds, and so on, so forth. But if you're working with something like car rental office, you might not need all these things. You might have just 2 or 3 security camera to record the surveillance on the cloud or something like that, and then you might be fine with that. Just to check those things camera can be a simple security audit. Are you getting me, ma'am, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this, depending upon the organization we join, there are a bit of differences in how you implement these security audit procedures. And there are no additional tools for auditor as such. But of course, as Anuj sir have said, see, when trying to work with, let's say, that enterprise rent a car office outside, there'll be an access management system which has to be audited. Now if you have, let's say, 5-6 users, you normally, rather than investigating the system or a tools, you just sit with those 5-6 users and get the checklist completed.
Okay.
So rather than using a tool, you normally interact with people. So security auditors are mostly interact with people and trying to find out if there are compliance and non-compliance and so on and so forth. But yes, there could be some tools also, depending upon your length and breadth of your audit, length and breadth of your different organizations. You might be visualizing couple of penetration testing tools and their log to complete your audit. So this way, again, usage of tool is also kind of for a specific job role, there could be or there could be.
Okay.
I know this might sound a bit confusing to you to start with,
No,
but
I'm
once
just looking what to add to my resume, so that's what I was like wondering.
yes, definitely.
Analyst, I got a resume, but that was like for an analyst, so they had extra skills and all that. So I thought, like, I was wondering what is the skill set for auditor.
Sure. And we might update our resume more frequently than others,
Sure.
because the demand, the supply, and all those things in your given region. So there might be some cybersecurity analyst more in demand. So we might start working as an analyst. It's not much difference if you ask me. As far as the experience goes, practicability, you might have to wear multiple hat. But
Got
let's if you're really working with bigger organization, you might have a specific job role.
Okay.
Again, these are all might, can, could, and all those things. Let's sort it out whenever we start giving interview.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Jay sir, please go ahead. You had some question. Oh, ma'am, is that all in terms of
Yeah,
questions?
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Not question, but regarding interview preparation, I tried to contact HR, but I didn't get answer from her. So which website and where to
Website for
contact
interview?
for?
There's no website,
No,
sir. You have to
not
join the
website, not
RRPCs.
website, but where to join and.
Oh, the links are shared, na, sir? Normally on Thursdays and Tuesdays morning, you'll have a link
No,
in the cybersecurity group.
I didn't get any single link
Okay,
regarding
are you
interview
part of
preparation.
candidate counseling as well?
No.
Because I've seen the link posted there. Let me do one thing. Even today's link, I believe there was a link today. Let me forward that to you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so that you'll get those details. Let me forward that couple of times, and then you can attend it. Let me do that, sir, for you.
Okay, no problem. And second thing, for Anuj sir, can I give you my email address so you can send me that interview question, because I'm getting having some
You're
problem.
still not able to open it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share you the question list. Meanwhile, we'll also work on, what is the issue we are getting.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Sure. Any other question as of now? No, I believe. So let's conclude our session. Please have a look at this recording. I'm going to release it to the YouTube as well. And do let us know if you have any question. Okay. And start working on your profile. Please remember to check your WhatsApp on Tuesdays morning so that you'll get to know the overall timing and links of these things. Let me share that with you if the HR is not put it in the cybersecurity group. Okay. That I will do it. Please don't worry on that part.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Have a great weekend. Bye bye. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Bye bye.